went to a film camp, and it's a very definitive moment where they were like, you can go and continue working on the script, or you can go down the hall and work on the cameras. And I immediately was like, hi, I'm Elizabeth Vrkljan. I'm a cinematographer based in New York City. So I came towards cinematography first through photography, which I feel like is a lot of people's vein into that. I grew up, my mom was a photographer before I was born, did a lot of fashion work, and so through that I got very interested in cameras, got a little point and shoot when I was super young and started taking photos. And then as I got older, I got really into pursuing cinematography. I love the mix of motion and narrative and being able to build kind of someone's visual perspective. I think lighting is honestly the primary thing I'm thinking about when it gets into setting up shots. Coming from a strong lighting background, that was always what I was drawn to. Even when I was younger with photography and stuff, I've always been very interested in like how light plays into emotional experience and like where you are and everything. So this project came to me. I have a friend who's based in LA, and he knew an actor that had some friends that had just moved out to New York, and they were looking for a DP for this short. Yeah, it's always someone who knows someone who knows someone. And so for this instance, you know, yes, there's comedic elements that we're playing with when it comes to like camera movement and such, to get the pacing right. But as far as the general vision, we really wanted to focus on our main character's internal experience and kind of the transformation of discomfort into kind of finding your place. It was very character-driven in the sense of our lead's internal experience, especially because, well, this is a comedy, it's very much about coming into your queer identity and feeling really out of place. And for our character, when she walks into this party and it's very warm and locked off, it's meant to feel very kind of like rigid and out of place, and it's almost like a little too warm and overwhelming, and she doesn't feel like she fits into it. When we get upstairs, you know, it's a lot more handheld and fluid, and the lighting is very cool and blue. And the conversation that came up when we were discussing this was that for our lead character, her only reference of a sapphic fantasy and like her understanding of what it feels like and looks like to be with another woman is through the lens of this film, Blue is the Warmest Color. And so we wanted to play with that of how someone else's experience or someone else's perspective on something can play into your own internal perspective of your experiences if that's the only lens you have to look at through it. I always kind of am thinking more about the color palette and the look first, and then I'll work with the equipment that I have, or like whatever we end up with. I'm very comfortable with the FX3, and then combined with the ZEISS lenses, it was nice to, first of all, the CP3s, they're able to keep that kind of softness to them while being able to resolve and keep sharpness when you're in really low light, wide open, which is often very difficult with other lenses. For me personally, as a DP, I tend to shoot really low in the curve and a lot darker than I think most people would be comfortable with. It's just kind of how I've always shot. And so it wasn't, especially with the FX3 and having the option of dual ISO, I didn't have to have as much light as I thought I would. It was mostly a matter of kind of spreading the light and getting it in a way that felt natural and organic. Especially when you're shooting on a rooftop, you want to underlight in some ways more than come very direct at someone, and everything kind of needs to wash together since there's not as much of these like direct sources that you have going on, especially dead on to someone's face. So I think one of the best things about New York is there's character everywhere. The energy and space of the city provides a lot of, you know, depth and context to what you're shooting. I think the biggest thing about New York is you have a lot less control and privacy than you do when you're shooting in like a house in Los Angeles. So it's stuff like that that I think makes shooting in the city really great is those kind of like happy accidents of, you know, restrictions and things outside of your control that will make for better art in the long run, because it's not something you might have thought of yourself, but once you see it, you're like, oh, that really fits and works.